Think about the last time something really broke you. Now be honest. Did you actually talk about it? Or did you close a door, literally or not, and carry it by yourself until it got smaller or until you just stopped noticing it was still there? Here's something that might be harder to hear. A lot of people are walking around every single day carrying something they've never actually named. Not because they're in denial, not because they're weak, because trauma doesn't always look like a single dramatic event. Sometimes it looks like being fine, functioning, showing up to work, laughing at the right moments, and still feeling something heavy sitting underneath all of it that never quite goes away. So here's the real question this video is going to answer. How do you know if what you're carrying is actually trauma? Why does it hide so well even from the person carrying it? And what does the research say about what happens if it never gets addressed? By the end of this, you might see something in yourself you hadn't noticed before. And that's not a bad thing. That's the first step toward putting it down. Let's start with how common this actually is because the numbers are higher than most people expect. The CDC's Adverse Childhood Experiences study, one of the largest of its kind, found that approximately 64% of adults report experiencing at least one traumatic or highly stressful event before the age of 18. Nearly 1 in 6 report 4 or more. And here's the part that matters most. Most of those adults never received any kind of support to process what happened. They simply grew up, and the experience got absorbed into who they became without ever being named as trauma at all. Trauma researchers have identified something important here. Trauma isn't defined by how dramatic an event looks from the outside. It's defined by how overwhelmed your nervous system was in that moment and whether you had the support to process it afterward. That means two people can go through the exact same hard experience, and one processes it and moves forward, while the other carries it for years, not because they're weaker, but because they didn't have anyone to help them work through it at the time. This is why unrecognized trauma is so common. It rarely announces itself. It doesn't usually show up as flashbacks or obvious distress. Far more often, it shows up as things that seem completely unrelated. A short temper that flares up faster than the situation calls for. Difficulty trusting people, even when they've given you no real reason not to. Feeling anxious for no identifiable reason. Struggling to relax even when nothing is currently wrong. Overworking to avoid sitting still with your own thoughts. Numbness in moments that should feel meaningful. None of these feel like trauma when you're living inside them. They just feel like your personality. Like you're just wired that way. Research on trauma suggests that in many cases, they're not personality traits at all. They're adaptations. Your nervous system learned to protect you from something, and it never got the signal that it's safe to stop. Here's what's happening underneath all of this. When your body experiences something overwhelming, it activates a stress response designed to help you survive the moment. In a healthy process, that activation completes a cycle. The danger passes, the nervous system discharges the stress, often through movement, expression, or connection with another person, and the body returns to baseline. But if that cycle never completes, if the moment passes but the stress response never gets the chance to fully release, the nervous system can stay partially activated. Not dramatically, not obviously, just enough that you're slightly more on edge than you should be, slightly more reactive, slightly less able to fully rest for years without ever understanding why. And this is the part almost nobody talks about enough. Isolation makes this worse. Research on stress physiology has consistently shown that connection with another trusted person measurably lowers cortisol and calms the body's threat response. It's not just emotionally comforting, it's biological. Being truly heard by someone signals to your nervous system that it's safe to stand down. Talking about what happened out loud, to someone who listens without judgment, isn't just a nice idea. It's one of the only things that actually helps the stress response complete the cycle it never finished. But here's the trap. The moment you actually need that connection the most is often the exact moment you pull away from it. Withdrawal, isolation, and a reluctance to be a burden are extremely common responses to unresolved trauma. Not because those people don't need support, but because the same protective instinct that helped them survive whatever happened originally is now working against them, telling them that needing people is dangerous or embarrassing or something to just push through alone. So the thing that would actually help almost never happens, and the weight just stays there, quietly shaping decisions, relationships, and self-worth from somewhere underneath conscious awareness. If any part of this sounds familiar, that's not a diagnosis, and it's not something to panic about. It's simply worth paying attention to. Noticing a pattern in yourself is not the same as being broken. It's the first honest look at something that's been running in the background for a long time, and honest attention is exactly what starts to change it. If this resonated with you, the next step isn't complicated, even though it might feel that way. It doesn't have to start with therapy, although a licensed therapist is one of the most effective resources available if you have access to one. It can start smaller than that. It can start with telling one person one honest sentence about something you've never actually said out loud. Research on emotional disclosure consistently shows that simply naming what happened to someone safe begins to reduce its physiological grip, even before any deeper work happens. You don't have to have the whole story figured out. You just have to stop carrying it entirely by yourself. You are not weak for feeling like you're holding more than you should be holding alone. You're not broken, and you're not overreacting. Your nervous system is simply asking for something it never got the chance to finish. And the way you give it that chance isn't complicated. It's just being honest with yourself first and then with one other person about what you've actually been carrying this whole time.